The year 2021 was the 40th anniversary of Shibusawa Kou in his video game development career. For those of you who don't know who Shibusawa Kou is, he's a game creator and producer for many games in Koei, one of the co-founders of Koei itself, and also the current CEO of Koei-Tecmo. Back in 1978, he and his wife Erikawa Keiko founded Koei and have produced many of memorable game titles such as Nobunaga's Ambition, Romance of the Three Kingdoms, Kassen, Crimson Sea, and of course, Nioh. He even voiced Oda Nobunaga in Nioh.
久しぶりに面白い余興であったぞ。この信長の野望、道半ばであったが未練なぞない。猿も狸もわしの敷いた道を歩んでおる。
Last fall of 2021, it was announced that Shibusawa is working with Team Ninja for a new action game set in the world of the Three Kingdoms. Considering Team Ninja is involved with the development, it was safe to assume that it was going to be a game similar to that of Nioh. Fast forward to June of 2022, Koei-Tecmo has revealed the game that Shibusawa talked about. Enter Wolong Fallen Dynasty. The description of the game reads the following. This was taken from the official PlayStation YouTube channel. Wolong Fallen Dynasty follows the dramatic, action-packed story of a nameless militia soldier fighting for survival in a dark fantasy version of the later Han Dynasty, where demons plague the Three Kingdoms. Players fight off deadly creatures and enemy soldiers using swordplay based on Chinese martial arts, attempting to overcome the odds by awakening the true power from within. Wolong Fallen Dynasty is Koei-Tecmo's biggest video game project that is soon to be released. This was their main showcase during Tokyo Game Show 2022. The demo of the game is now available for the PS5. The game got a lot of hype and a lot of people have been making the buzz as well. There are a lot of things I'm going to discuss about Wolong in this video, especially when it comes to the gameplay from what we have seen so far. I'm going to discuss the possible story of the game as well, based on a certain timeline of the late Han Dynasty era. Before I begin this video, I need to make a confession. Believe me when I say this, I'm going to confess something so hard that I may get absolutely hated for saying this. This is legit like me confessing my sins on a church. Are you ready, guys? Here we go. I have never played any Souls-like game in my entire life.
Sacrilege!
Yes, people, you have heard it right. I have never played any Souls-like game in my entire life. I'm going to talk about Wolong in a completely blank slate of having no prior knowledge to Souls games whatsoever. However, I am going to discuss this game from what I have seen of the gameplay so far, especially from a perspective of someone who is familiar with the Three Kingdoms lore, mainly from the Dynasty Warrior series. We have a lot to discuss in this video. Before I begin, however, this video came out of a suggestion from a good friend of mine, Mura. He was actually the one who suggested me to make this video because he thinks it would be interesting to see from a perspective of someone who is familiar with the Three Kingdoms lore. Not a lot of people who are looking forward to Wolong are familiar with the Three Kingdoms lore. So, without further ado, let's talk about Wolong Fallen Dynasty. In this session, we're going to take a look and react to a video called Wolong Fallen Dynasty, Team Ninja Talks Soulsborne, Influence, and more. In this video, the producer, Yasuda Fumihiko, and the development producer, Yamagiwa Masaki, are going to talk about the concept of this game. Before we go into the video, I would like to explain a little background in regards to these two gentlemen here. The first person, Yasuda Fumihiko, has been working with Koei-Tecmo since the early 2010s. He was the executive producer for Nioh 2 and Fatal Frame Maiden of the Black Water. He was the director for Nioh, Nioh 2, Ninja Gaiden 3, and Yaiba Ninja Gaiden Z. He was the assistant director for Ninja Gaiden Sigma 2. Most importantly, he was also the story writer for both Nioh and Nioh 2. It's no surprise that Yasuda is given the role as producer for Wolong Fallen Dynasty, mainly because of his major influence and involvement from the two Nioh games. The second person, Yamagiwa Masaki, was the producer for Bloodborne. Now, from what I've gathered, Bloodborne is considered to some as the best Souls game that is ever made. Important to note as well, Yamagiwa was also the planning director and level designer for the 3 Sonic Advance games, the 2 Sonic Rush games, and Sonic Unleashed. So basically, we have the producers of both Nioh and Bloodborne coming together to create Wolong Fallen Dynasty. If Bloodborne is truly the best Souls game that people claim it to be, then you guys can expect Team Ninja to give their all for Wolong Fallen Dynasty. Now, I'm not going to react the entirety of this video. I'm going to only discuss the main concept behind the game. I suggest you watch the video yourself as well, since you can have a better idea on what to expect from Wolong Fallen Dynasty. With that out of the way, let us play the video.
ウォロンについては、コエテクモが得意にしている歴史ものっていうことと、チーム忍者はこれまでニオシリーズこの数年ずっと作ってきましたけど、そのブレンドというか、組み合わせっていう部分で期待いただいていいタイトルになってると思います。で、今回中国の三国志の時代を舞台にしているので、それに合わせたストーリー、ドラマチックな武将たちとのお話であったり、何よりアクションですね。チーム忍者なんで期待している方多いと思うんですが、中華アクションを取り入れた、よりスピーディーで、没入感のある、バトルを、描けていると思うので、そこに一番期待していただきたい。
We all know that Wolong Fallen Dynasty takes place during the Three Kingdoms era, more specifically, the fall of the Han Dynasty era. I will explain this detail a bit later as we discuss the possible story of the game. Now, the main highlight of this part is when Fumihiko explained briefly about the combat. He said, "We've made the action speedier to create battles filled with immersion." Basically, the combat of this game is going to be a lot faster in pace than the 2 previous Nioh games. We will take a look of this aspect a bit deeper when we eventually discuss the gameplay itself based on the demo.
本作で目指しているのが大きく2つあって、1つがアクション面でいうとギリギリの死闘というか戦いの中で中国武術特有の可憐な、けれん味のあるアクションみたいなのを駆使して乗り越えて、でそこでなんかユーザーさんがすごく自分の中で高揚感を得れるようなアクションっていうのを目指しています。で、システムというか新しい戦略みたいな点でいうと戦場の士気みたいなのをなんかうまく表現して落とし込めないかなというふうに考えていて、自分が強いやつを倒すことによって盛り上がるとか、それによって何かを得るとか、逆に敵の方も勢いづくとか。
Two major things to take away here. The first one is that the combat is derived from Chinese martial arts to create an action that would give players a feeling of immersion. I've seen how the combat is played out in the demo, and every move looks super smooth. They really nailed the Chinese martial arts of weapon fighting in this game. The second one is the new mechanic that is the warrior's morale. From what Fumihiko explained here, defeating a strong enemy can give the player a reward, while an enemy can also take something by defeating a player. The main goal of this mechanic is to provide players with a decent challenge, thus giving them a sense of pride and accomplishment. Now, I have played a lot of Dynasty Warriors games to know what the morale system is. In Dynasty Warriors, the morale is kinda like your army's motivation. See the blue and red bar on the top right of the screen there? That's the morale bar. The blue bar indicates allies' morale, while the red bar indicates enemies' morale. If the blue morale is dominant, that means battles are in the player's favor. Enemies are usually easier to beat, especially enemy generals. However, if the red morale is dominant, that means battles are in the enemy's favor. Enemies are harder to beat, especially the enemy generals. What they have applied here is actually very similar. Enemies with higher morale rank are more dangerous. Based on what Fumihiko said, however, enemies with higher morale rank can drop better rewards than those with lower morale ranks.
大きなポイントとしてはニオであったら侍のバトルのイメージとしてスタミナと気力というものがあって、敵の気力と自分の気力を見ながら攻守のタイミングを見極めて戦うっていう部分があるんですが、今回、ウォロンについてはバトルにおいてそういったその気力というものではなくて、より短期的な攻守のやり取りというか、そしてそれが切り替わるっていうものをイメージ、よりバトルテンポが速くなっているっていうものはイメージしていただけると、このウォーロンのバトルっていうものがどういうものかっていうのは正しいイメージしていただけるのかなと思います。
攻撃と防御一連の中で入れ替わるってところを目指していて、 そこが流麗さであったりとかけれん味のあるアクションにはなってるんですけど、それを本当にギリギリの戦いを勝ち抜いたってところの達成感とかそういうものにつなげていきたいっていうのが狙いですね。
A short takeaway from this is that, as previously mentioned, combat is more fast-paced, thus battles are shorter. From what I've gathered here is that not only do they encourage players to switch from attack and defense often with short battles, but they also wanted to make sure that players are more easily adapt with the combat. As Yasuda stated here, should help you to understand what kind of combat awaits you. A faster combat will also make a better aesthetic. With the heavily inspired Chinese martial arts and fast combat, action can look cool for the players playing the game.
ゲームがある中で我々が大事にしたいのはやっぱりその強敵と対峙してそこに打ち勝って達成感を感じてもらうっていうことでいうと、やっぱりもちろん武将たちもたくさん登場しますけど、彼らに加えて龍馬という、超常的な存在、本当に強大な存在っていうものはゲームデザインバトルを考える上でもやっぱり必要だったので、そのイメージを導入しました。
As you expect from a Souls-like game, the idea of the game is to fight strong enemies because it feels rewarding to beat a hard fight. What I'm interested here is that famous warriors from the Three Kingdoms period will appear and they'll transform into fiends. As you can see from this image here, this is Zhang Jiao. For those of you who don't know who Zhang Jiao is, Zhang Jiao was the leader of a religious cult movement called the Yellow Turban. The Yellow Turbans consist mainly of commoners and bandits whose main goal was to rebel and put an end to the Han Dynasty. Since the Han Dynasty back in those times were heavily corrupt, Zhang Jiao used his teaching for the people who suffered during the era to destroy the corrupt dynasty. The Yellow Turban Rebellion is considered to be the start of the end of the Han Dynasty.
というのが我流っていう、伏せた竜、眠った竜みたいな意味のなんですけど、で今回その我流っていうものは、三国好きな方はね特定のやっぱり人物を想像すると思うんですが、意味としてはそのまだ世に知られていない英雄だったり傑物っていう意味があって、今回その三国志の始まりの時期、三国志長い時代がありますけど、その序盤を描いているというのもあって、その後に非常に中国を三国で分かれて統一したりっていうような武将たちがまだ世に知られていないっていう彼らの物語でもありますし、何より名もない一人の主人公としてそのキャラクター自身も一人の我流の一人であるっていうことで、そのタイトルを今回つけました。
As I expected, the story only takes place during the earlier parts of the Three Kingdoms lore, which is the decline of the Han Dynasty. So the name Oolong basically revolves around us as players becoming the hero who rise above the ashes of a failing dynasty. So that's what I can take away from this video. Once again, I highly recommend you guys to watch the video yourselves. Link is in the description below. With that being said, let's talk about the gameplay. Now, since I'm primarily a PC player, unfortunately, the demo for Wolong Fallen Dynasty is not available on PC. Well, at least just yet. So far, the demo is only available on PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. I don't have either of those two systems, unfortunately. The discussion of the gameplay is going to be based on what I have seen so far. There are two videos that we are going to analyze. The first video is the official gameplay demo from Koei-Tecmo during Tokyo Game Show 2022. The second video is a gameplay demo from Maximilian Dude. As I said in the beginning of this video, I'm not too familiar with any Souls-like games. So I had to do a lot of digging to understand the gameplay for Wolong Fallen Dynasty. Hopefully, I don't end up being a guy who is clueless and talking out of his rear. Once again, this is mainly from a perspective of a person who likes the Three Kingdoms lore and a major Dynasty Warriors fan. As you guys are watching here, this gameplay footage is from Koei-Tecmo's demo at Tokyo Game Show 2022. First of all, we all know that you are playing as a created character. For the record, I must say the graphics in this game looks absolutely gorgeous. I don't buy it when people say Koei-Tecmo is not a AAA company. This is mainly the argument from the Dynasty Warriors core fanbase. They are a AAA company. Dynasty Warriors and the Atelier series are not the only franchises Koei-Tecmo has. I even consider those titles AAA games. Anyways, according to the announcer, the gameplay takes place during the prologue of the game, so it's not the true beginning of the game. The game's story in the demo takes place during the Yellow Turban Rebellion. For those of you who aren't familiar with the Three Kingdoms lore or fans of the Dynasty War series, you will immediately recognize this. The character starts off wielding a sword and a bow. The sword that the protagonist is wielding is a Han Jian, I believe. So Jian is one of the 5 weapons during the Han Dynasty, which is where the game takes place. The other 4 weapons during the time period are Dao, or a broadsword, spear, halberd, and staff. Those weapons are definitely in the game, considering they wanted to emulate real Chinese martial arts, especially during that timeline. In this demo, the protagonist is able to select different weapons from his inventory. Right now, he is wielding 2 swords, which is dual jians. He also has a pole weapon, which is called Guandao. The weapons that the character is using are actually weapons wielded by 2 most important figures in the Three Kingdoms lore. The twin swords are the main weapons wielded by Liu Bei. Liu Bei is one of the 3 founders of the Three Kingdoms. He was the founder of Shu Han. Among the 3 kingdoms, his main goal was to restore the Han Dynasty. Liu Bei was a descendant of the founder of the Han Dynasty, Liu Bang. Although he had royalty blood, during this era, however, he started off as a regular peasant. He made a living every day out of making straw sandals. From a humble beginning, he went on a journey and became the first emperor of Shu Han. Now, the Guandao, or the Crescent Blade, belonged to Liu Bei's sworn brother, Guan Yu. Guan Yu is one of the most iconic warriors in Chinese history. He was even recognized as the god of war himself due to his prowess and skills in battle. His weapon is also known as the Blue Dragon, which in the game they actually called it that. During this era, Guan Yu was also still a regular unknown. He made a living as a bodyguard. Moving back to the gameplay demo, I want to go over the boss fight first. Now, the boss of the demo is Zhang Liang. For those of you who are familiar with the Three Kingdoms series or the Dynasty Warrior series, I'm sure you know who Zhang Liang is. For those of you who don't, let me explain. Zhang Liang is one of the younger brothers for Zhang Jiao, the leader of the Yellow Turban Rebellion. He was the youngest brother among the 3 Zhang siblings. He even mentioned that before he transitioned into his fiend form.
Hey, fun.
What is that power? I, General of Man, brother of the great sage mentor!
Uh-oh.
There was a phase 1.
Will not betray my brother's trust.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. And now he's a goddamn demon, turned into the alien queen.
Now, during the Koei-Tecmo presentation at Tokyo Game Show 2022, they actually showed another boss fight. As you guys can see here, this is Lu Bu's boss fight at the Hulao Gate. For those of you who don't know who Lu Bu is considered as the greatest warrior in Chinese history. It was said that he specialized in archery, horse riding, as well as close-range combat with his halberd. In Dynasty Warriors, Lu Bu's halberd is named Sky Piercer. He also has a signature horse called the Red Hare. Lu Bu's skills as a warrior was so legendary, he was given the nickname Lu Bu among men and Red Hare among horses. In Lu Bu's boss fight, they actually incorporate his Three Kingdoms lore really well. You fight him at Hulao Gate and he is mounted on Red Hare during his first phase. His attacks include charging, swinging his halberd, and shooting arrows. Once again, this is to represent Lu Bu's lore from the Three Kingdoms. They also showed that you will fight an unmounted Lu Bu as well. Going back to the main combat, you all notice the numbers above your characters and enemies' health bars. That displays morale of every character on screen. As previously mentioned, the morale shows the strength of characters. The higher the morale number is, the stronger the character will be. As you can see here in Maximilian Dude's gameplay, both him and Zhang Liang are at the same morale level, 20. Now, although both characters have the same morale, enemies at this morale level is shown to be rather tough for him to handle. Now, the Koei-Tecmo gameplay demo also showed that you can increase your morale and decrease enemies' morale by putting banners at a certain checkpoint of the territory. Now, I think I've explained a lot when it comes to the gameplay based on what we have seen so far, as well as the correlacy towards the Three Kingdoms lore. I suggest you all watch the official Koei-Tecmo gameplay demo and Maximilian Dude's gameplay. to have a better understanding, of course. Even better, if you have a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox Series X, you can actually try the demo yourself. I would probably have a better understanding if Koei-Tecmo released the gameplay demo on PC. I mean, there's still time, Koei, what are you waiting for? Now then, on to the next session of the video. As we all know, the story takes place during the end of the Han Dynasty. The game is more or less going to cover the events from the year 184 to 192. There are two major battles that takes place during the time period. The first one is the Yellow Turban Rebellion, which we have discussed earlier in this video. The prologue of the game starts you during the battle, and you even fight Zhang Liang as the first boss fight. We also know that Zhang Jiao is in the game, and my guess is that the second brother, Zhang Bao, as well. The second one is the anti-Dongzhuo coalition battle, which consists of two important battles. The first battle is the Battle of Sishui Gate that took place in the year 190, and the second battle is the Battle of Hulao Gate that also took place in the year 190. We have seen Lu Bu's boss battle in the game, therefore it's clear that Hulao Gate is in the game. I'm going to discuss the Three Kingdoms lore that took place during the game, which is possible story events that we could see. The story starts in the year 184 during the rise of the Yellow Turban Rebellion. The Han Dynasty was in the verge of collapse after 400 years of reigning. I'm going to play a clip from Romance of the Three Kingdoms 11 to give a short synopsis of the time.
It was the year 184. The sun that had shone on the Han Dynasty for 400 years had finally begun to set. The greed and ambition of the eunuchs brought disarray to the imperial court, and a string of natural disasters and harsh tax increases stripped the people of all hope. Zhang Jiao of the Way of Peace raised arms in an attempt to overthrow the Han Dynasty. This instigated rioting among the people, setting off the largest peasant uprising in history, the Yellow Turban Rebellion. However, the chaos gave birth to many distinguished heroes across the land. Cao Cao aided in the suppression of the Yellow Turbans. Sun Jin was renowned for eradicating bandits. While Liu Bei, Guan Yu, and Zhang Fei pledged an oath of brotherhood in the Peach Garden. A new era of turmoil was about to be born.
So that's the synopsis for the first major event of the game. We all know that the producers mentioned that we are going to encounter famous people of the time and fight them as enemy bosses. As we have discussed earlier, the Yellow Turbans was founded by three Zhang brothers, Zhang Jiao, Zhang Bao, and Zhang Liang. Two of them are confirmed as boss fights, while one of them has not been confirmed. However, I am sure that Zhang Bao is indeed going to be a boss fight in the game. Now, outside of enemy bosses, famous people of the Three Kingdoms lore are also going to be your ally. For example, the person you are looking at right now is Zhao Yun. In this game, you can actually summon him to assist you. A little backstory about Zhao Yun: he was a famous military general that lived during the late Han Dynasty era and the earlier years of the Three Kingdoms. If you played the Dynasty Warrior series, I'm sure you know who Zhao Yun is as a character. He is the face of the Dynasty Warrior series, he's in the cover of almost every Dynasty Warriors game, he is like the John Cena of Dynasty Warriors. During the late Han Dynasty era, Zhao Yun was under the service of a warlord named Gongsun Zan. There are limited historical information on what Zhao Yun did during the times of the Yellow Turban Rebellion. However, some speculate that Zhao Yun served as a regular soldier who fought against the Yellow Turbans. His appearance in the Three Kingdoms lore was a bit later after the fall of Dongzhuo, which was around the year 192. After serving Gongsun Zan, he went to serve Liu Bei, who was one of the founders of the Three Kingdoms. He is usually portrayed as a brave young warrior with a white armor, a white stallion, and a spear. In Wolong Fallen Dynasty, he is portrayed as that. During his time serving Liu Bei, he was considered as one of the 5 Tiger Generals. Other characters during the Yellow Turban Rebellion that we might see are the three founders of the Three Kingdoms. First, you got Liu Bei along with his two sworn brothers, Guan Yu and Zhang Fei. As I previously mentioned, Liu Bei was the founder of Shu Han. Second, you got Sun Jian, also known as the Tiger of Jiangdong. Sun Jian was not one of the founders of the Three Kingdoms, but he laid the foundation for his son to create Sun Wu. Third, you got Cao Cao, who, just like Sun Jian, was not the founder of the Three Kingdoms, but he laid the grounds for his son to create Cao Wei. A little interesting fact as well, Cao Cao's son, Cao Pi, was the one who usurped the last Han Emperor, Emperor Xian. The uprising of Cao Pi marked the true end of the Three Kingdoms in 220. The birth of Cao Wei by the first Emperor Cao Pi sparked the establishment of the other two kingdoms as well, Shu Han and Sun Wu. Going back to the proper time period, after the end of the Yellow Turban Rebellion, the Han Dynasty found itself into an even deeper chaos. Various warlords started to take advantage of the weakened dynasty for their own goals. Once again, I'm going to play a clip from Romance of the Three Kingdoms 11 that covers the second major battle of the era.
It was the year 190. The Han capital of Luoyang had become a den of violence and pillaging. The turmoil did not cease following the Yellow Turban Rebellion, as conflict rose between He Jin and the 10 eunuchs. As tensions reached their peak in the imperial court, it was Dong Zhuo from the west who manipulated the emperor for his own gain. After seizing power, Dong Zhuo strengthened his influence by obtaining the services of Lu Bu, the mightiest warrior in all of China. Meanwhile, Cao Cao had fled the capital and issued an edict to various regional lords, instigating a revolt against Dong Zhuo, with Yuan Shao as its leader. The alliance against Dong Zhuo had been established, and Hu Lao Gate became the site of a fateful battle.
During the anti-Dong Zhuo alliance, two major battles took place. The first one is the Battle of Sishui Gate. Sishui Gate was guarded by one of Dong Zhuo's top generals, Hua Xiong. I'm pretty sure that Hua Xiong is going to be a boss fight in the game, considering we are going to have Lu Bu at Hulao Gate in this game. I'm guessing Hua Xiong is going to have two-phase boss fight like Zhang Liang as well, where you fight him as a human and as a fiend. The second battle is Battle of Hulao Gate, which we already covered earlier when we discussed the gameplay. Hulao Gate was guarded by Lu Bu, and indeed we are going to fight Lu Bu in the game. My guess is that when they showed the gameplay demo of Lu Bu's boss fight, it may take place during somewhat very late in the game. Now, at the end of the anti-Dong Zhuo alliance, Dong Zhuo decided to flee from the capital city of the Han Dynasty, Luoyang, to a city named Chang'an. As he and his army fled from the capital, he decided to burn Luoyang in order to halt the Allied forces' advance. This event is known as the Burning of Luoyang. If you pay attention to the trailer and demo, they showed the shot of the protagonist standing on top of a burning city. I have a feeling that this may be the final stage of the game where you are standing on top of the capital during the burning of Luoyang. They also showed that there is this giant dragon creature arising from the city. I'm not sure who this dragon is, but I have a feeling that this may be the final boss of the game. It just makes sense for me if the final stage on the game takes place during the burning of Luoyang. So that's it for the possible story that may take place in the game. Do let me know what you guys think of the story in Wolong Fallen Dynasty. So that's it, ladies and gentlemen, what we can discuss so far from Wolong Fallen Dynasty. I may have missed some important notes for this video because this video is already longer than I anticipated to be. With that being said, although I'm not familiar with any Souls-like game, but I may play Wolong for the sake of it, mainly because I'm familiar with the Three Kingdoms lore. So what are your thoughts on Wolong Fallen Dynasty so far? Are you guys excited for the game? Do let me know in the comment section below. With that being said, this is me, Profar. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. If you dislike it, give me a thumbs down. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, join the Profar Mokuri Hunter X Discord server, and I'll see you guys in the next video.